I think from a wisdom standpoint, having the self-awareness to understand the situation that you're currently in is due to not only what's been around you, but how you've reacted to what's been around you, and having the clarity to understand that you can change your blueprint and change what that is over the next few months, over the next few years, whatever it is, and have a completely different life than what you think you're currently stuck in.
Whether you're looking for inspiration, guidance, or simply a moment of reflection, you're in the right place. This is Wisdom Stripes. Before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to take a moment to share something important. The views expressed by my guests are their own, and they may not necessarily reflect mine or those of this platform. My intention with every episode is to create a space where we can explore diverse perspectives, life experiences, and belief systems together. I truly believe that wisdom lives everywhere, and often we find it in the places we least expect, especially in those whose experiences and beliefs are very different from our own. Not every episode will challenge you, but some might, and that's okay. Growth often comes when we allow ourselves to step into discomfort and see the world through someone else's eyes. I also want to share something I heard recently from Oprah Winfrey that really struck a chord with me. She said at a commencement speech, "People all want to know one thing. Was that okay? Did you hear me? Do you see me? Did what I say mean anything to you?" My hope is that you will try to go out and have more face-to-face conversations with people you may disagree with, that you'll have the courage to look others in the eye and hear their point of view, and help make sure that the speed and distance and anonymity of our world doesn't cause us to lose our ability to stand in somebody else's shoes and recognize all that we share as a people. There has to be some way that this darkness can be banished with light. I couldn't agree more with those sentiments spoken by Oprah. These dialogues aren't always easy, but they are so important. My hope is that this episode and all the episodes I share will inspire you to listen a little more closely, reflect a little more deeply, and keep showing up for the conversations that matter most. Thank you for being here with me. It means so much to me that you're part of this journey. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to Wisdom Stripes. My name is Meg Tuohey, and in today's episode, we're diving into the world of entrepreneurship, digital marketing, and scaling businesses with strategy and impact. Our guest today is Eddie Maalouf, founder and CEO of Bad Marketing, a full-service digital agency managing over $700 million in annual revenue for clients worldwide. Eddie leads a team of 100+ experts, helping brands grow through performance-driven marketing across platforms like Meta, Google, Amazon, and more. Beyond Bad Marketing, Eddie runs several other companies, including Brilliant Marketers, Hire Properly, and Agency Founders, all focused on scaling, hiring, and educating at the highest level. With operations across the US, Europe, and the Middle East, his impact is global, his insights practical, and his drive undeniable. Today, we're unpacking Eddie's journey, his approach to leadership, and the hard-won wisdom that's helped him build multiple 7- and 8-figure companies. I'm thrilled to welcome Eddie Maalouf to today's episode. This is Wisdom Stripes, your no-nonsense, fierce fairy godparents turning pain and confusion into clarity and confidence. Eddie, we always start with the same question for our guests. What wisdom would you like a listener to come away with today?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here.
Me too.
Thanks for traveling so far too. I don't know if people listening know how far you've traveled to get this done and the amount of effort you put in to make these episodes happen for everyone. So thank you for that as well in the first place. I'd say from a wisdom standpoint, it's just more the overall concept that us as humans have some sort of lens that we're seeing the world through. And that lens is solely built on the experiences around us that we've surrounded ourselves with, whether it's our parents, whether it's our teachers, whether it's our friends, situations that we've been in, trauma that we've been through, etc. And that is the lens that we see the world through. And I find that so many people are trapped in a situation only because they can't understand that lens can change. And so they're basing it on experiences that they've had surrounding them, yet they are not aware of the fact that they can reshape those experiences moving forward by changing the exposure that they have to other things. So for example, in my hometown here in Atlanta, my friends can't fathom, let's talk financial for a second. My friends can't fathom, making $100,000 a year. That's a lot of money. But my other friends in Miami, who I'm close with because of the internet, can't fathom making less than $1 million a month. And so those are the same people. They have very similar upbringings, very similar situations, yet their lens that they see the world through is completely different due to what they have surrounded themselves with. And so something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm currently actively doing, is trying to reshape the lens of as many people as I possibly can for whatever that reason is, whether it's parental trauma and not believing that a marriage can be successful because something that their parents had, whether it's financial trauma and not understanding that you can be successful because your parents weren't and they've told you to do something a certain way, in every aspect of life, right? And so I think from a wisdom standpoint, having the self-awareness to understand the situation that you're currently in is due to not only what's been around you, but how you've reacted to what's been around you, and having the clarity to understand that you can change your blueprint and change what that is over the next few months, over the next few years, whatever it is, and have a completely different life than what you think you're currently stuck in. And so I hope that resonates with someone that's listening. But once that I realized that, which I was blessed enough to be surrounded at an early age due to my circumstances, I was able to kind of reshape my life completely different than what my parents perceived was possible or my friends thought was possible. And it's because of that exposure that I've been able to create around me.
There's two words that resonate particularly with me. One is lens. So I'd like to do that with you. And the second one is blueprint. Now, lens, I think, is straightforward. This is sort of like the glasses that you see your world with. And we could imagine it in a variety of colors. If you grew up seeing largely people around you that were pink, then your lenses that you look through the world is pink. If you grew up and you were surrounded by people who were the color orange, then you've got your orange glasses on, blue glasses, etc. And so the trick here is to recognize that you are wearing a pair of glasses and that there are other colors that you can add to your glasses that expand your perception. That bit I got. The bit that I think we need to clarify is the bit around blueprint. So the blueprint, I think what you mean is where you are now, you can change your blueprint going forward. Did I read that right?
Correct. Yeah. So like my current blueprint, as an example, is the last 30 years of my life, everything that I've compiled as information, all the experiences that I had, all the times that, I got screwed over in business or someone passed away that was close to me or whatever, all these things, bad and good, happen to be able to get me to where I am. That is the blueprint that I have. Therefore, with the blueprint that I have, I'm always building on it. I'm always changing it. I'm always trying to improve it. And most of it comes from self-clarity. You know what I mean? Being able to look at the mirror and understand, like, I am at fault for my situation if I don't like it. And I have the full control to change it via changing my blueprint and how I perceive the world. They're one and the same, the blueprint and the lens. Because I'll give you an example. We could, you and I could both look at the same girl who has a great dress and she has a coffee stain on her dress. And you might be like, oh, wow, look, she has a coffee stain. I might be like, wow, look how beautiful this girl's hair is, right? It's the same exact person, the same thing that we're looking at. But you and your blueprint have maybe drawn you towards the negative factor versus me and my blueprint might have drawn me towards finding something that was positive in the same situation. We're both looking at it, two different outcomes, right? And so I think that's what it is.
Okay, so that helps me, and I'm glad I asked, because when I heard blueprint, what I thought you meant was a pathway forward of a blueprint of what you thought your life might be. And what I think I just heard you say is the blueprint is all the experiences that you've had and your context up until now. That is the blueprint of who you are at this age and stage of life.
Exactly.
It's like all that got you to here. So if we look at it that way, we could use it in two different directions.
Yeah.
But we're looking at the lens and the blueprint are the artifacts or the externalized versions of your experiences to date.
Agreed.
And they shape you going forward. And so if you want to know what it looks like in the orange glasses, you're going to have to expand your awareness that there even are other glasses to look through.
Exactly.
And that would therefore change your blueprint.
Correct. And I'm open to a new word besides blueprint.
Well, I don't think it matters. I think what matters is we all know what we're talking about.
Agreed.
When we use it. How did you come by this knowledge? How did you, when you look at your timeline, when you look at what got you to here, how did you start to really understand the idea of this perception and this blueprint and how you build it as you're going, and perhaps it's unconscious?
I don't think it's unconscious. I think at some point in my life it was, and then it became conscious once you kind of start picking up on it. But just like everyone else, I mean, I was not always self-aware. I blamed everyone for everything that happened around me growing up. Anything that happened that was negative to me, I would find the quickest and easiest reason to put that blame on someone else so that I felt better and I didn't blame myself. Oh, it's not my fault. That happened to me. So that's why I'm in this circumstance, right? But as time went on, when I was about 18, 19 years old, I got into like network marketing, MLM, whatever, pyramid scheme, whatever people want to call it. But something they do really well in those businesses is they enforce a lot of personal development. They have you reading books about self-development. They have you watching videos about self-development. And through that, you start kind of realizing, okay, I have the same opportunity that this other person has. He's doing significantly better than I am. He's much happier than I am. Yet I have the same control to do the same thing. And I should even be doing it better than him because I have XYZ that maybe he doesn't. And so over time, surrounding yourself with people who are doing better than you, whether it's financially, whether it's in the relationship, whatever it is, you start becoming self-aware that like, it can't just be the circumstances that these people are in, because everyone has a problem, right? You talk to someone, you're like, oh man, this person's so well off. And then you find out like 2 years ago, they had no money and they were homeless, right? And it's like, oh, if he can come from that situation, then it can't just be the circumstances around him, because if that's the case, then he would still be homeless. And so you start kind of shaping this understanding that it's not about what happens to you. It's about how you react to what happens to you that creates the outcome that you want to create. And so like I was saying with the dress, in any scenario, especially in life, people just get so stressed so easily over things and then they start panicking and stuff. I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it's very hard to make me panic over something. It's like there is an outcome that is good. There is a solution that is good. And if it's not great, there is one that is the best solution or outcome to this. So I'm just going to spend my energy trying to figure out what that is so that I can react accordingly to this negative situation or whatever it is and give myself the best shot at leveling up. Because how I look at this in regards to the blueprint is we're all characters in our own video game. And, do you ever play video games at all? Or
I
ever?
mean, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh, actually?
Yeah.
I would have guessed. I played a lot of video games growing up. I still play video games with my friends. But how I look at it is like in a video game, you could get to like level 10 and you could like die. And then you would have to restart the video game from scratch. But every turn, everything that you need to do. Your character has leveled up to a certain point that you can overcome these things almost in your sleep to get back to where you were. And so life is very similar. We're continuously playing this game of self-developing ourselves as a character. And even if things happen in our life that set us back a level or 10 levels or all the way back to 0 to restart the video game, our character is still leveled up. And so those steps that we have to overcome to get back to where we were and even further become significantly easier over time because we've self-developed ourselves. Now, if I play the opposite game where instead of self-developing myself and being like, okay, I need to get stronger to overcome this level, or I need to get smarter to overcome this level, or whatever it is, if I played the blame game and I just said, oh, this level's too difficult, it's not me, it's the level. Like, I hate this level, I hate this level, I hate this level, whatever. I'm never going to be able to level up. But more importantly, my character will never level up. Therefore, I'll always be stuck in the same levels while everyone else is leveling up besides me. And so once you understand it all comes from your character and your being internally, then you can kind of start self-reflecting. Where do I need to improve? Where could I have been better? Where did I make a mistake? You know what I mean? Even in business, sorry to just keep ranting, but even in business, I've been screwed before where like people really did some bad stuff behind my back, took the entire company from under me, did some crazy stuff, right? On like the day my daughter was born, like crazy, just like the worst thing that could have easily spiraled you out of control. And my first reaction was obviously like, I hate these people, I'm mad, whatever. But then my second reaction was like, okay, what did I do wrong that allowed me to be vulnerable enough to be in the situation where someone could do this to me so that I never let this happen again? And then I sit down and I notate, blah, 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 blah. Even my house got robbed. Someone broke into our house. They took a significant amount of money. Most people would not recover from what they took. Obviously my wife is traumatized and all that. That's a different scenario to unpack, which we won't do that. But my immediate reaction wasn't, oh my gosh, I hate these people. I can't believe they broke into my house. I opened my notepad on my phone and I was like, what did I learn from this situation so that I never let it happen like this again? Like, where is my safe? Why was it there? Why was it so easy to get to? Why were they able to break into the house? Why? What could I have done better? And then I went and corrected those things as quickly as possible, because now my frame of life is like, now that the information is fresh, what is everything I can learn from it? Because every L is actually a lesson. It's not a loss. You know what I mean? And so once you can reframe that, I think you can start, developing yourself faster.
Every loss is a lesson. Is that what you meant by every L?
Yeah.
Roger that. Just operationalizing the term.
Sorry, we're in Atlanta terminology.
I gotta learn the lingo. Gotta learn the dialogue. Okay. Got it, friends. This is an unexpected turn from an interview perspective that I'm about to take you on, but I actually think there could be real wisdom in this. Could you share what you wrote in your notes app on your phone about the things that you learnt about being robbed?
Yes, but there's some. Oh, my phone's over there though.
Okay.
I can.
Well, just I
can give you a few. Yeah. So, one, I'm going to give away some secrets here that I didn't want to give, but I'll give them because I'm sure someone will have trouble figuring it out in the future. But one, most people understand. I started realizing basically what happened was they suction cupped our window, they pulled it out, and then they didn't touch anything in the house. They didn't even flip a pillow. We didn't know we got robbed till hours after we were in the house. And basically what they did was they went straight to the master bedroom and they basically went to the closet, found the safe, and then basically spent 30 minutes demolishing the safe into literally metal shreds until they got everything inside of it. And it made me realize, one, the safe that's in the master bedroom is where most people assume the safe is. And so if you want to be smart, make that almost a distraction safe. Put some money in there, put some jewelry, put whatever in there, but that's not your main safe. Your money needs to go elsewhere, whether it's, I'm not going to spoil all my secrets because I might get robbed in the future, but just think outside the box and maybe have your most valuable belongings elsewhere in the house that is not the safe. And if someone breaks into the house and gets what's in the safe, they will assume that they got what is the most valuable thing in the house because it is in the master bedroom safe. But just for context, as crazy as an example, if it was in a duffel bag in a random closet, no one would look for it. You know what I mean? And so therefore actually putting our most valuable things in a space where no one would ever look because no one would put anything valuable there might actually be the safest place to put the stuff, if that makes sense, right? And so you start thinking like that. And then now we have motion sensors in our house. The glass is different. You start thinking about security as a whole. But you'd be shocked because when people break into houses like this, it's like a professional job. They scouted the house for 8 days. I went back and watched it on cameras. They knew exactly where the camera stopped. They have a device that can jam the cameras so that the cameras become useless. Even if you have cameras, think logically. Everyone's like, oh, did you have cameras? I'm like, they had ski masks and gloves and you can't see anything. So even if I have cameras, even if I have 4K cameras, you can't see anything. They're just fully covered, right? And so you need to start thinking outside of measures. So now I have silent alarms that go off without triggering in the house that doesn't tell them so that the cops show up and actually catch the people instead of just scaring them off. You start kind of thinking about things like that, right? What did I do as a mistake? Another really big mistake was I know who did it. And it's someone that involves, they have work to do around our house, to say the least. They saw us getting in the car with a lot of huge suitcases looking like we're going to travel for a long time. And so they took advantage of that. And so another thing I challenge people to do is be more aware of your surroundings. I'm pretty naive because, I think it's because I have a very nice and kind heart. I'm always giving to people. I'm not ever trying to screw anyone over. I screw myself over in order to help other people more than I, would ever screw anyone else. And so I'm naive to that. And I think that, okay, the world is like that in some places. And, now that I have 2 daughters, I'm growing up, I'm starting to see things. I start viewing it as okay, you need to not be naive. The world is actually more dangerous than you think. Just because you're playing in your own bubble doesn't mean that's the case. And so, be aware of your surroundings when you're loading a ton of huge suitcases in a car, like you're about to go on a long-term vacation. Be aware of who's around you, maybe try to do it inside of the garage, time it differently, et cetera. And so those are some of the lessons I learned. But the hardest part of it all is just more like, my wife and her trauma. I travel a lot. It's hard for her to be at home alone. It was a very tough first 3 months. We're about 6 months out at this point. It's still hard sometimes. That first night when I leave, she's alone. It's like, what's going to happen? She kind of doesn't sleep sometimes. So that's been the most difficult part. But I'll tell you, financially, like, they took 7 figures of like hard cash or jewelry or whatever it was. And so, that's kind of hard to recover from for most people. And so I changed my frame to like, okay, the only thing I can do is go and try to make that back somehow. So let me try to explore the best ways possible for me to be able to go and do something like that and be able to make it back. And so that was the mindset that I took from it. What do I learn and how can I go recover from this? Because no one's going to recover for me. And we're up from there. So
thank you for sharing that. A couple of things on my mind. The first thing is, no one's coming to recover it for me. I think that is one of the most difficult realizations that we have as we age, that no one's coming. And it might be about the recovery of money. It might be about the desire to have someone emotionally support you. It could be something that's neither of those things, but in the same direction. When you realize that if it's going to be, it's up to me and that I'm the one, it can have a whole host of feelings. Can you talk to us about the wisdom of deeply understanding no one's coming?
Yeah, I mean, one, I say no one's coming, but ideally you've surrounded yourself with a decent enough support system where someone is coming. But in this case, it's a financial burden and no one's coming for that. I thought the insurance company was. It was hilarious. And I was like, oh yeah, I have robbery insurance. I have this. And then they were like, yeah, we'll pay $120 for your window. I'm like, what about, this giant list of things you asked me to itemize, show you receipts? No, yeah, we don't cover any of that. That's called high value products and you need to insure each of them separately. I'm like, well, that's tough. But that being said, I think in this world, again, everything is dependent on yourself. And so like you can create a support system, which can make it easier. I was just talking to a friend yesterday. At a young age, he was basically shot in the back over like a financial dispute. He was shot in the back. He lost his legs. Like he has his legs, but he can't use them. And I was just talking to him yesterday and I was like, hey man, I'm like really proud of what you overcame. Like, I know you don't see it that way and you look like you're behind in life and whatever, but like, for the last 10 years, you've had to deal with this. And as strong as you think I am mentally, as much as you look up to me, I look up to you for that. And I don't know how I would have handled it. I might have broken down and lost control and maybe killed myself for all I know. I mean, watching some of the things that you go through is hard. And he was like, yeah, I realized that, it was kind of up to me to overcome that. But if I had this giant support system of all of you guys around me, and then you guys also helped raise money and you did XYZ. And because of that, I got back up on my feet. Otherwise, I don't think I'd be in that spot. And I, might have taken my own life if I didn't have that support system. And so I say, it's all up to me, but creating that support system intentionally in your life will be the thing that kind of helps you get over that edge because, we all have weakness. And so at some point we break. And it's much harder to pull yourself out of that versus being able to have people externally helping you pull yourself out of it. And so just want to be clear, it's up to me for sure. But in many scenarios, without the support system, that journey is much more difficult and much longer. And, I challenge people that are listening that don't feel like they have that support system to go intentionally create that support system because it exists out there. There are people who are in similar situations. There are people who want the same outcomes as they do, who have the same interests that they do, and actually also want a similar support system and might be missing it as well. And so I think being intentional on going and trying to find and create that support system, it doesn't necessarily need to come from family. Most people's families eventually become their, almost lack of support system over time. So it becomes the close friends that you keep. It's the family that you create. It's the relationships that you generate. And so it is up to me, but a support system can go a long way. And I think a lot of people, feel like because they don't have one, they can never have one. And so I challenge them to think a little bit differently about that.
I like that very much. It feels a bit like hand in glove. Like the point I was trying to articulate, and I'm glad we had this dialogue, was that there is no one coming. You must take your own steps. But I love that you put the glove on the you must take your own steps to say you do not need to do that alone. Yeah. So you got to have that agency, that autonomy, that personal leadership, and you can bring your people with you. And I love that. That was a really nice co-created conversation. I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay. So next frontier for us that I'd like to talk about is the idea of all that you've built and now what you're also recovering from. It's a big deliverable that you've already done and that you now feel called to do. Where on your timeline do you feel like that comes from? What is it about you that has that on your heart, that big deliverable? Why is this your calling, your job, your mission, your work? Where does it come from? Hey there, Meg Tuohey here with a quick and exciting announcement. As a psychologist, coach, and founder of the Wisdom Lab, I've had the privilege of helping thousands of individuals break free from the vicious cycles holding them back and tap into their infinite inner wisdom. If you're tired of feeling unheard, unseen, and stuck in the same old struggles, the Wisdom Lab is the breakthrough you've been yearning for. This on-demand program guides you through a powerful process to shatter emotional barriers, overcome deep-rooted blocks, and experience the profound transformation you deserve. In just 4 hours, you'll gain the tools and insights to revolutionize your life from the inside out. Want to learn more? Click or tap the link in the show notes for all the details. Okay, now back to the episode.
I think part of it, the blueprint that was created was my father never had a job. He came as an immigrant from overseas. He always worked for himself. I actually honestly didn't even, here's how oblivious I was. I was in university and there was a career fair, a career day, whatever they called it. And all my friends were like putting on suits to go and like go to this career fair. And I was like, what are you guys doing? Like, and they're like, oh, well, all these companies are here. They have booths. Like, we want to go like build a relationship so that when we graduate in 4 years, we can have a job with the companies that we want. And I was kind of like, oh, I thought we were just like learning in college to just go start our own thing. Like, I didn't even fathom that like going and getting a job was like the outcome that I was going for. Like, I was originally going to law school in my head. And so like I was going to go become a lawyer. I was naive. Like, I'm just going to go open and start my own law firm and people, I'll find a way to get customers and whatever. Right. Like I never thought that like getting a job was even an option until that moment it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, all these people here are here to get a job. And so like the upbringing of my dad, like I never had like spring break as a kid. Like all the kids would go to Florida and swim and go to the beach and I would just go work with my dad for a week. On weekends, I'd work with him. It wasn't like a bad environment. It was like very uplifting. I was looking forward to it. I can't wait to work with Dad. Obviously, it sucked when my friends were at the beach. I'd be like, Dad, this sucks. Like, I can't believe you're putting me here. But that was the upbringing that I got. And so I understood hard work. I understood that you can work for yourself and do these things. But I still never had the mental blueprint or understanding of like what was a lot of money, what is a little money. I always just thought, oh my gosh, $100,000 a year and like I'm the richest guy ever, right? And then as you grow up, you start to find out that that's not the case. And then I started surrounding myself with people who were young, who were making significantly more money. And then it started shattering my beliefs that I built my whole life, which is, that $100,000 is a lot of money. Then $1 million became a lot of money. Then $10 million became a lot of money. Then $100 million became a lot of money. And so like, as you build more exposure, those things happen. And so taking it back, basically when I was in university, I got out, I started working for myself doing marketing. I was making pretty good money, more than $100,000 a year, more than what I thought was a lot of money at the time. And I got to a point where I was like, okay, why am I doing this? I originally, like most people, I originally did what I was doing to make money. Like, oh, what's the easiest way and fastest way for me to make money with something that I'm good at? It's this. Great. How do I do it? And then I started kind of self-learning. Then I started paying other people to teach me. And then through that, I started making pretty good money, tens of thousands of dollars a month. And then it clicked in my head. I was like, okay, great. I can do this. Back to the game. I've leveled up as a person enough where I can make this amount of money. I'm in this level financially, and I will always be able to return to this level. If someone resets me back to zero, I have the personal skill set to return back to this level in 30 to 60 days. Therefore, I don't need to do this for money anymore. I need to do this for like passion and purpose. And so what would make me feel like I have like a really large outcome? And I was like, I think I just want to like build companies that make a massive impact in the world in different ways, whether it's marketing, whether it's in education, whether it's in food, entertainment. There's just so many categories that I'm in now. But I just realized, okay, well, why don't I just play as big as I possibly can? And worst case scenario, I lose everything. I mess up. I make some sort of catastrophic mistake. I lose everything that I have. And then, you know, in a couple months, I'm back to making more than enough money to have a good life. Maybe not what I'm making now or having the companies or whatever, but I can always go back to that. And so that kind of provides you a sort of sense of security in a way in yourself, not in the environment around me, but in myself. You could put me anywhere in the world, give me internet, you know, and I will make money for whatever I'm working on. And so that the perspective started shifting from money to like purpose and passion. And so like even one of the projects I have is a restaurant. Everyone's like, why would you buy a restaurant? I'm like, it was my favorite restaurant. It was going out of business. And I was naive enough to think that I could just buy it and turn it around into what it used to be, which was my favorite restaurant. And I did. And so now we went from 3 locations. Now we're about to open our 7th location. We're going to be at 100 in 5 years for sure. And it was like, I just want to do it to like prove that I can do this big thing that other people think can't be done. You know what I mean? Not for even money, because I'm not taking any money out of it until 5 years from now. And so the perspective changes of why you want to do things. And so again, it's a video game. And my character has leveled up to a certain point. And so barring some catastrophic event where my brain is, you know, not in a spot where it can operate, I will always be able to return to that spot. And so once you take away the motive of money, you can kind of think a little bit more clearly.
I'm really curious who you see as your biggest critic.
To be honest, it's myself. I'm definitely my biggest critic. In some areas, I need to be more of a critic, like fitness. Like I'd love to get back to the shape that I was in, but it's just like, I don't care enough. And then one day I look in the mirror and then I'm criticizing what I look like. And then I get back in shape. And then it's just like this giant roller coaster that goes up and down. Right. But overall, I'm definitely my biggest critic. Like my wife tells me it all the time, you know, hey, you're doing awesome. Look at this, look at that. And I'm always just like, oh, where can I be better? And sometimes the where can I be better and self-improvement aspect becomes over criticizing in a way. But I think in my eyes, that's also necessary to grow. But there's an extent where like you can celebrate along the way and be happy. And not that I'm not happy, but you know, when I do criticize myself, I'm obviously not happy. That's why I'm criticizing myself. Oh, you need to do this better. Or you need to be this better, or whatever it is. But I'm definitely my biggest critic. And I would challenge to say that most people who are successful or people look up to, they are probably their own biggest critics as well. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there.
Yeah, the reason I asked, and I didn't give you any preamble, so I know I just did a quick hook turn and you didn't see it coming. The reason I did that is when you were talking that story of the 5 to 100 of your food, your favorite food that you bought that you want to build. I'm sure I heard you say something like, I want to prove that I could do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, who are you proving it to? And that's why I turned the question so quickly to see what it was that is the person that you're proving it to. Yeah. Is it the same? Are you proving it to yourself? Or
I'm always proving it to myself.
To yourself.
At one point, it was proving it to others.
Yeah.
And then it flipped. So I'll tell you, you know, I was, my dad did well for himself, not like extremely well looking back, you know, but like, you know, upper middle class, but he made an impact on a lot of people. Like a lot of people looked up to him. He did a lot of good with a lot of people. And every time I was introduced in conversations growing up, you know, it was like, my dad's name is Pierre. I was like, oh, this is Pierre. And this is Pierre's son. This is Pierre. This is Pierre's son. This is Pierre. This is Pierre's son. And so I remember one day sitting with my dad, at dinner. I was about maybe 18 years old. And he's like, what do you want to do? Like, what's like success to you? And, you know, we're kind of just talking about it just one-on-one. And I was like, I think I'll feel good when I'm stop being introduced as Pierre's son and you start being introduced as Eddie's dad. And he was like, oh, that's cool. I was like, yeah. And then maybe like 4 years ago, he came up to me. He's like, everyone I talk to just can't believe that I'm Eddie's dad. He's like, no one even knows Pierre anymore. They just know Eddie. And I was like, remember I told you? He's like, I know. And he's like, and you did it. And I was like, cool. And that was kind of the moment where I was like, I don't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. This is for me.
Yeah.
You know? But that was kind of a cool little, one-on-one with my dad that I had there.
I love that story. May I take this one level deeper?
Yeah.
Is it okay with you? So now what I'm really curious about is that internal drive that has some sharp elbows, that critical part. What do you think drives that? Why is that part of you in the driver's seat sometimes?
Which part?
The critical part, the part that's like, Eddie, you're not going to make it to 100 restaurants, Eddie, and maybe it doesn't sound quite like that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like that.
Okay. I could read that on your face.
Eddie, you're going to make it to 100.
Yeah. Okay. But the part that you rub up against.
Yeah.
So maybe it's got a different like a lingo to it. But why does that part of you get in your way sometimes? Because clearly you're a person of great accomplishment. And this part is, it's kind of got its elbows out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about it.
You are perceiving it as this man of great accomplishments.
Yes.
But every man of great accomplishments has his deficiencies. Some super successful people have been through 3 marriages at the cost, their success came at the cost of their families. And so I'm always trying to be self-aware of the holistic picture as a whole. Sometimes my business does really well, but in return, I'm neglecting time with my wife. And so I have to be critical in different pillars: my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my family and friends, my business and my financial side, but also my relationship with my business partners, like my fitness, my own personal health, my own mental clarity. Like there's just so many avenues of life and pillars of oneself that even though I may be, crushing it or perceived as crushing it in certain pillars, there are ones that I'm deficient in or being deficient in. And I will never crush it in those areas unless myself can determine 100% that I'm being deficient in those areas. I'll give you an example: fitness. Most people are like, oh, well, girls like dad bod, so I have a dad bod. Or like we create excuses for ourselves as people as to why we are in the scenario that we're in and why it's acceptable to do so. Even though that, on a scale of 100 levels, we might be operating at level 10 and there's 90 more levels to go. Most people don't want to explore what that looks like because they want to justify the complacency of where they're at. And so for me, I think it's just like knowing that there are people out there who are, have worse circumstances than I have and have better relationships with their family. They're in better fitness. They're making more money, whatever it is, right? I'm sure they have their own deficiencies to some extent, but they are better in categories that I would like to be better in. And if so many people can do so, there's no reason why I can't. And I'll be honest, like I become complacent all the time. You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard not to become complacent when you have all these things going on. Sometimes you just want to say, screw it. Let me just spend some time with my family, or let me let this ball drop over here. You kind of become complacent with the success that you have in whatever category you are. But I always have to come back to a point of like, this complacency is what's causing you to not grow. And so I need to criticize. Some people look at criticism as a negative term.
Well, I read it the way that you spoke about it before. I read it in you as something that's got some sharpness to it, but maybe I read that wrong.
What do you mean by sharpness? Like I mean like the elbows.
Yeah, the elbows out is like the get into gear and do it properly and do it right. And I can't believe you're like this and pick up your game.
No, it's not.
But now I'm starting to realize that's actually not what you mean.
Yeah, it's more like it's not hitting me down, it's pulling me up. Yeah. It's more like, oh, you could be that. You should be able to do that too. Why don't you? You know what I mean? And so it's more challenging myself to, why are you doing it? And then trying to dissect mentally, what are the excuses that I'm giving myself? Yeah. And again, it still comes from a good support system too, right? Yeah. Like I have my friends who are super fitness driven And, I'll get on and be like, hey man, I feel like I'm looking good. They're like, don't fool yourself. You still got a long way to go. You know what I mean? I'm like, you're right. Thanks for checking me. I got complacent there for a second. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
And so
now I actually feel like I do understand you a bit better, because the reason I went down that line is that when you used a term, I understand it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so after asking you a question, now I see your frame.
Yeah.
So criticism from my lens is something that is not particularly good for a relationship.
Negative.
Yeah. The way that you're using it, though, is looking for the gaps and then saying, hey, there's an opportunity here for you to grow.
Exactly.
And your internal voice to yourself, it does sound like sometimes it's harsh, but it doesn't sound like it's corrosive and contemptuous. And is that correct?
Correct. I'm never talking myself down.
There we go.
Your original question was, who's your biggest critic?
Yeah.
But the other question asked is also, who's your biggest fan? And for me, they're both the same person. They're both myself.
Okay.
I'm my biggest critic and I'm my biggest fan at the same time.
Okay. In my world, which is relationships, if you are in a relationship with a person, like say a friendship, a good friendship, we need to, for every one piece of criticism, and I mean that in the original definition of the world, which is like, why do you leave your dishes on the sink?
Be better. Yeah.
Yeah. You're so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So for every one of those, you need 20, like, thank you so much for helping
affirmations.
me. Yeah. Or noticing and appreciations. Okay. So 1 to 20.
Yeah.
When you're in actually, no, it's 1 to 5 for a friendship. In a relationship of husband and wife, it's 1 to 20. So you need 20 good things to counterbalance one criticism. When you're in a relationship with self, there is no number. But what I know is relationship with self. That's one of my subject matter expertise areas. I would hazard a guess it's 1 to 30, 1 to 40, 1 to 50. Where you've got to catch yourself doing it right and appreciate it for every time you pull yourself up and say, hey, there's this opportunity, or you've got this development area. We need to look at that, girl.
So you think self is 30
I
to
reckon
1?
30 to 50.
Really? And relationships 20?
Intimate, 20. And then good friendship, 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I want to push back a little bit.
Let's go.
Because I feel like it's really dependent on what the person can withstand as well. So if someone's a little bit softer and I don't want to use the word weaker, but like I think you kind of get where I'm going at, like more sensitive, let's call it.
Let's call it sensitive.
Okay, sensitive. Then yes, 40 to 1 might be the ratio, right?
We're talking, that's with self, relationship with self.
Yeah, I'm talking with self.
You are talking self.
I'm totally talking self.
All right.
Self is actually the strongest sabotage because most of my friends that are in their head about things, it's not because anyone told them. It's because they are in their head. Okay. Like my most fit female friends who have abs think they're fat. No one said they're fat. They all think, oh my gosh, your body's insane. How could you get this body? No one says anything bad, but they self-sabotage themselves. And so
yeah, well, that's not 1 to 40 then, is it?
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. I mean, definitely not.
Okay.
But I think the stronger you are mentally and able to take, whatever criticism or whatever it is, that number drops significantly. Like there's no way I tell myself 40 positive things for every one criticism that I have, but my criticism also doesn't come from a place of, I hate that you put the dishes in here. It comes from, Eddie, you need to be better.
Okay. So we've got to operationalize this because I don't mean 40 positive affirmations like, oh, you did so good with your...
Okay.
I don't mean that.
Okay.
So when we're talking about this is the relationship of friendship with a self.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what we're talking about. And friendship is about knowing yourself and knowing your adjustments, your opportunities for growth, the things you're good at, the things you're less good at. It's about the way you talk to yourself. It's about the way when you have an experience inside yourself, you turn towards to make sense of it or to kind of be there for yourself. And it's about generally seeing yourself through warm, positive regard. I am largely a good person doing good things and I have my human moments, for example. So when we're looking at that idea of 1 criticism to 40, that criticism is like if we use, what's a good example? Say I forget something or I'm running late and it's something important. If I'm like, oh, why do I do that? Why am I always like this? Because under great pressure, we hear that voice.
Yeah.
And when we're over that side of the stress curve, that's where we hear our inner critic. And we'll be, why am I like this? Why don't I allow myself enough time to get there? Why didn't I judge the traffic correctly? Why? Oh my gosh, you had one thing to do and you completely messed it up. That type of criticism can be held in a person, regardless of whether they're sensitive or not. If the 40, 30, 50, we haven't agreed on a number and neither is science. If generally there is a warm, positive regard for who you are normally. And so then when you're like, girl, I want to grow into somebody who can do this thing and I can see that I'm not doing that, that is not a critical tone. That's just a noticing. And so when we have those noticing, it doesn't harm our relationship with self. In fact, it's kind of neutral, or it is a knowing of self that actually increases our worth and self-esteem. And so I think what you and I are teasing apart really beautifully is this idea of what is criticism actually, and what is a good self-worth, a self-esteem, and a self-friendship. And it does really feel to me like actually you have a good relationship with self. You have high dreams and goals, and you are relentlessly asking yourself to grow. And the inner critic that we all have is quieter in you. It's not actually lashing out or harming you or hurting you, but it is, you are using a part of yourself that allows you to keep leveling up and keep leveling up. And you're able to do that because the way you speak to yourself, it is high standards, but it is still kind. And I feel like that's what we've just pulled apart. And I wonder, did I get it right? And do you agree? Or would you like to edit or change anything?
I think you nailed it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very intuitive of you.
Well, I think it's important because these are the things people don't talk about. You can ask yourself to grow without using contempt, without using the true definition of criticism, which is a shortfalling and therefore a personality or a character defect. You can grow without that. And that inner critic, do you know, it doesn't belong to us. We internalize it from the people, particularly our primary caregivers that are around us in our formative years. And when we hear that, we can assume it's not our true self talking to us. It is actually the embodied voice of those that criticized us in those early years. And if it's really loud, then we've got some healing to do.
For sure. But
that's not what you and I are talking about. And that's really, really fascinating.
Thank you.
How are you feeling about it?
I mean, I'm at peace with it. Like, this is
well, that would make sense.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing, like, you know, we've internalized this over the course of 45-minute conversation.
Yeah.
But what people don't understand is I've been developing that over the course of a 14-year period. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Trying to not talk myself down and trying to, you know, be positive in the criticisms that I do create. And so it wasn't always like this, like definitely not. I was, you know, my biggest hater at the same time. I would criticize everything about myself. Mm-hmm. I hated the way I looked. I hated the way that I talked. I hated the way that I dressed, the money that I made. Like, I mean, I hated the way that I talked, that, you know, I wasn't good with women. Like, there's just a million things that I hated. Mm-hmm. And so, but in order to fix those things, you have to identify them. If the house has a water leak and I don't know where the water is leaking from, I'll never fix the water leak in the house, right?
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with looking for the possibilities to grow. I think maybe our takeaway is watch your tone with yourself, dear one, because you are a lovely person doing your very best. And if you're criticizing and contemptuous with yourself, then we have some repair to do in your relationship with self. And it might take you some time to build your way out of it.
It will take you some time.
It will take you some time to build your way out of it. And this is what it looks like, feels like, sounds like when you have built your way out of it. And maybe you're not all the way done because you're lovely and young. You've got a lovely long life.
I don't think we're ever done.
Ahead of you, and we never get it done and we never get it right. But this is what it sounds like. And Eddie is a lovely example of being able to grow, but without the contempt and the criticism. And so maybe we could invite you to use a different word than criticize yourself.
I agree. And blueprint, because they're both confusing, it sounds like.
We're going to update. We're going to update. All right. Yeah, so that is a lovely, lovely conversation for us. And it feels like we're starting to reach a natural end. But I do feel like there's one last thing that is ready for discussion. And I can't quite tell what it is you're going to say. But here's the question. Talk to us about the last piece of wisdom or advice you feel like we need to talk about. What have we left unsaid?
I think it's kind of a wrap to this whole thing.
Right.
But one thing I like to, someone told me this actually pretty recently, and I'm like, damn, you're so right. But success. So just to be clear, in this, quote that I'm going to give, success can be defined however you want. Whether it's, successful relationships, successful financially, successful with your family. Everyone has a different form of success, and there's 100 million kinds of success that you can have, right? In different avenues of your life. But success comes at the risk of criticism. Sorry. Let me take that back. Success comes at the risk of insult. Meaning, if you really want to improve, you need to be ready to be insulted. And you need to understand this for what it is. But if I go to someone and every leap that I've ever had in my life, financially, relationship, whatever, came from someone to an extent insulting me, whether I paid for the insult or not, right?
Because we do sometimes, right? Don't we?
So I'll pay someone to give me advice, and then they'll insult the situation that I'm in, by telling me, why do you do it this way? You should do it this way.
Yeah. And
it's the risk of insult is the clarity in this quote. I could go and be like, screw that guy. That was super insulting. I can't believe he said that to me. Or I could be like, he has what I don't have, and he's telling me this. And maybe all the experiences that I have up to my life at this point can't help me understand why what he's saying is correct. But he has what I don't have in this category. I asked for the advice. He gave me what he thinks the advice is from a third party looking at my situation. I can either be insulted, or I can either look towards what I can pull from that and take action towards it. And so success comes at the risk of insult. And you just got to be willing to do so. And like you said, it's about the tone that you speak to yourself in. And if you can speak to yourself in a positive tone that's uplifting, that's, criticizing yourself for where you could be better, but in a positive way, then I think the risk of insult becomes much smaller, and you can take things for what they are, which is, an attempt to give you advice to improve yourself as opposed to insult yourself. And I feel like majority of the world will take most of those things as an insult. And that is why they don't have the things that they have.
So let's pick up insult, because insult to me, when I think about it, feels like a bruise.
Yep.
So it hurts. And then people are like, that hurts. I don't want to know about that, or I can't know about that. That feels overwhelming. That feels like a threat. Maybe the invitation is to let the impact happen of the insult and to breathe through it, or take a minute, or take a sleep on it, and then allow yourself to look at it a second time, or a third time, or a fourth time, to really distill the value in what is being offered. And you get to discern what you want to do with it, but don't let the insult be the thing that stops you from looking at it. I feel like that's really wise.
Very key. And to add on top of it, everyone who's ever had some crazy change in their life or turnaround, or, just anything that turned into a positive direction, most of the time came from something so negative, whether it was someone passing, or whether it was an insult that they received, or whatever it was, that was strong enough to create a reaction in return that caused us to fix that thing or work towards the outcome that we wanted to have in most of those cases. And so sometimes the bruise is the only thing that can lead to the actual healing of that thing. And sometimes you have to be bruised.
And sometimes we have to recognize that the bruising is the size of the pain that lies underneath it.
Exactly.
And the bigger the pain, the more opportunity we have to grow our way out of it, to build our way out of it. And that can feel overwhelming, and that is reasonable. And when that happens, your job is to look for someone that can help or advise or grow you out. And I feel like if you take that opportunity, you're going to have yourself an experience of healing. And that feels really important.
Yep. I think that was a perfect wrap to this whole
thing. Did we
thing.
just finish it?
I think that was perfect.
We just finished it. We did so good. Thank you for being here.
I enjoyed it so much. That was awesome.
So fun. I'd like to thank Eddie Maalouf for joining me today on Wisdom Stripes. In today's episode, we explored his journey from launching his first ad to building global companies, his insights on scaling teams and brands and mindset, self-talk, home invasions, all the things. We covered all the things. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an update. You can follow Eddie and his ventures at eddiemaalouf.com and explore more at badmarketing.com. To stay connected with me, follow at Meg Tuohey Official on Instagram. Thank you for listening to another episode of Wisdom Stripes. I hope you gained a little wisdom today. My name is Meg Tuohey, and this is Wisdom Stripes. Thank you for listening to this episode of Wisdom Stripes. Follow me on at Meg Tuohey Official and leave a comment and review. I'm looking forward to meeting you here next time on Wisdom Stripes.